So in this video, I'm going to be going over the latest annual report for the Swedish live casino company, Evolution. Now, like a lot of you know that have been watching the channel, Evolution has become one of my biggest holdings, where I've already invested about $30,000 into the company. And if you take a look at my value portfolio, which currently consists of 13 stocks, and with the latest changes in prices, Meta has actually become the second biggest position in the portfolio. It has held the title of the biggest position in the portfolio for a couple of years now, but Meta recently dropped from about $700 down to, I think they're trading at around 500 now. And Evolution has actually been trading upwards. So they were as low as about $75, and their current price is $86. My average price is $95, so I'm about 9% down on the position. And like I said, I've already put about $30,000 into the stock, and the current value is 27,000. Evolution, of course, has great fundamentals, like we've gone over before. This hasn't been updated by Guru Focus for the latest numbers for the annual report, and they are doing a earnings call in, I think it's at the end of April. So then we'll get updated numbers and we can go over that. But in this video, I'd like to dive into the annual report and try to poke holes in my investment thesis and see if anything has changed, because seeing as Evolution is the biggest position now in my portfolio, I have quite a lot of money riding on their success. But let's do some quick calculation to find out what the intrinsic value of Evolution is before we continue on to the annual report. They have a free cash flow of $5.98 per share. And I think it's pretty fair to assume that in the next 5 years, they're going to be growing at around 10%. They did 14% in free cash flow growth last year, and their average for the last 3 years is probably a CAGR of 30%, something like that. And for the last 5, it's about 50%, if I'm not mistaken. But a 10% is very conservative. That will give us free cash flow per share of $9.63 in 5 years. Now, if you take that $9.63 and give it a multiple of 20, which I think is a fair assumption as well, since the average free cash flow multiple for Evolution has been 44 for the last 10 years, but obviously things have changed. But I think 20 is a more normal multiple for a company like Evolution growing pretty steadily. So that would give us a stock price of $192 in 5 years, which from the current stock price of $86 would give us a CAGR of 17%. So in my opinion, it's fair to assume that the stock is currently trading way below its intrinsic value. So let's take a look at some of the things that I've highlighted from the 2024 annual report. And first of all, we can see the year-end figures here. Adjusted EBITDA growth of 11%. And EBITDA margin is, well, it's still ridiculously high at 68%. Compared to 70% last year. They've had some difficulties in the business, which we'll go over later. The profit went up 16%, which is very healthy. And the earnings per share went from $5 to $5.94 or €5.94. And they are always raising the dividend. If we go down here, we can see the 5-year financial development. And if you just look at these numbers here, you look at net revenue, you look at EBITDA, and you look at the EBITDA margin, which is crazy high, you would not think that this company would be trading at 12 times free cash flow in the market. But the market can be crazy sometimes, and that is exactly what's happening. But let's take a look at the geographic growth, which is very important for Evolution, that they are growing all over the world, and we can see Europe is still pretty strong at 9.7% growth. So that's their steady base in Europe, and they're still growing. Asia has been their fastest growing segment, but has seen a slowdown due to some cyber attacks in 2024. But still 19% is pretty good. North America is a promising geographic location where they're growing 13%. It's more expensive to grow in North America because of the regulations. They vary between states, and you have to build out more live studios and stuff like that. But still a pretty healthy growth in North America. Latin America is also growing at a fair clip at 13%, and the rest of the world at 26%. And some highlights from 2024, they actually added 109 new titles or new games to their portfolio, which is a crazy number. So they just keep on growing there. They added multiple new studios and expanded their existing studios. And like we talked about, they're seeing a pretty strong US market growth. And in 2024, they also acquired Galaxy Gaming and another company called Arcadia Gaming Solutions. So we can see that the acquisition pipeline is still pretty healthy for Evolution, buying two companies in 2024, which hopefully will result in good growth for shareholders in the coming years. And I've highlighted some comments from the CEO, Martin Carlson. Net revenues for the year grew by 14%. Pretty healthy there. So they had several problems in 2024, disruptions at the Georgia studio and the cyber attacks in Asia. Also regulatory problems in the UK, and shareholders were worried that that would compound into more problems with the regulators in Europe. And also the ongoing problem, which has been, at least since I started following the company, it's the slow RNG growth. And at one point it was actually negative, despite all the cash that Evolution had spent in acquiring RNG companies. And here we can see the medium to long-term objectives for Evolution. And they have this policy of paying out 50% of net profit in dividends. I don't really agree with that policy, since I think they should retain more of the cash, but their business model is very asset light, so they don't need to reinvest a lot to get decent growth. And the outcome in 2024 is a proposal of paying out 52% of net profits in dividends. So they're giving a lot of money back to shareholders. And if we look at the growth, their goal is to increase the gap with their competitors and grow faster than the global online casino market, which they've done. And it's a 41% 5-year CAGR, which is pretty crazy compared to a very high growth market that's growing 23% for the 5-year CAGR, the online casino market. And these are also some interesting numbers here. The global online casino market, which consists of live casino, RNG tables, and slots, has, like I mentioned, had an annual growth rate of 23% during the last 5 years, where live casino has been the fastest growing segment within online casino, with an annual growth rate of close to 25% in the same period. And with Evolution being the leader in live casino, it's not bad to own a lot of shares in a company that's leading in an industry that's growing at this pace. And if we take a look at the online casino versus the total casino market, we can see that the share of online amounted to 25% of the total casino market in 2024, and the share of live of the total online casino market is 20%. So there's still plenty of room for Evolution to grow their offerings. And we can see here that the total gaming market in 2024, land-based is 72% and online 28%, and growing really fast. Of that, of the total market, land-based is still 75%, and live casino is only 5%. RNG is a much bigger market compared to the total of 20%, and live casino is growing very fast. And we can see the growth rates here compared to land-based casino. This is 5-year compound annual growth rate. Only 1.3% for the land-based, so they're pretty much staying in the same place. while live casino and RNG are just exploding. If Evolution is able to execute like they've been doing in the past, I don't see a reason why they couldn't become a $100 billion plus market cap company in a couple of years. And Evolution has a very strong value proposition where they are a one-stop shop for their customers, because they've integrated all of their offerings together with Evolution and the companies that they've been buying, Azuki, NetEnt, Red Tiger, Big Time Gaming, and No Limit City Games. So you can see that Evolution has built out a pretty strong suite of products. Now, customer dependency as a percentage of revenue is something that I've been worrying about since I started to invest in Evolution in 2023, and it's still going up, with the 5 biggest customers amounting to 33% in 2020, but going up to 46% in 2024, which is a lot. The top one customer, the biggest customer, is still 13%, so that's not too much. But 5 customers making up 46% of revenue, that is a lot, and something to keep an eye on. Now, we've already talked about Evolution's policy of giving a lot of money back to shareholders through paying dividend and buying back shares. And we can see the reduction in the average number of shares outstanding after dilution compared to 2022. It was basically at the same place between 2022 and 2023, but between 2023 and 2024, it went from 217 million down to 210 million, and they've been buying back shares for about 500 million euros, while the total return for shareholders has been pretty bad for the last couple of years, where their multiples have gone down and the stock price with it. And here we can see a pretty interesting table of capital returns for the last decade. You can see them paying a small dividend back in 2015, and that dividend growing from 12 million euros up to the latest number, which is 578 million, and 500 million euros in repurchases. So they're giving back over 1 billion euros to shareholders, and the company only has a market cap of about 17, 18 billion dollars today, and their operating cash flow for the last year was about 1.3 billion. So they're giving a lot of money back to shareholders, which is nice, especially seeing them ramping up the repurchases when the multiples are so low. Way too low in my opinion. So that's definitely a positive for us shareholders. So if you take a look at the revenue breakdown between 2023 and 2024, we could see a very healthy increase in the live casino revenue, going up about 16%, 1.5 billion to 1.7. RNG is growing, but very, very slow. So going from 275 to 287, it's about, what, 4% growth year over year? Not a lot, but very recently the growth was negative. So it's at least in the right direction, but definitely something we want to see an improvement in. And cash flow from operations did see a healthy growth as well, going from 1.1 billion to 1.3, and that's about 11%, something like that, which is great to see after a tough year in 2024. But just to summarize this video, as a shareholder, I'm very happy with the results. I'm very happy with how the management team has tackled the ongoing problems that we talked about in the video. And I do see a bright future for the company. I do believe it's way too undervalued compared to the quality of the business. But only time will tell if my large bet on Evolution will pay off or not. But this reminds me a lot of Meta back in the fall of 2022, which was a large win for me. But I've also been very wrong on companies before. The latest example is Alibaba, which I was way too late to sell off despite deteriorating fundamentals. But that's it for the video today. I want to thank you for watching, and remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.